Hello, and thank you for joining us again as we are continuing to read Carl Rogers on Becoming a Person, a Therapist's View of Psychotherapy. I am reading from the 60th anniversary edition for those of you who are who want to purchase the book or who are reading from a different version, just so you're aware of which version I'm reading from because of the page numbers might be different. So we had left off last time on the top of 147. We are going to complete the sixth stage and read until the seventh stage, which is on page 151. So here we go. Self as an object tends to disappear. The self at this moment is this feeling. This is a being in the moment with little self-conscious awareness, but with primarily a reflexive awareness. As Sartre terms it, the self is subjectively in the existential moment. It is not something one perceives. Experiencing at this stage takes on a real process quality. Example, one client, a man who is approaching this stage, says that he has a frightened feeling about the source of a lot of secret thoughts in himself. He goes on, the butterflies are the thoughts closest to the surface. Underneath, there's a deeper flow. I feel very removed from it all. The deeper flow is like a great school of fish moving under the surface. I see the ones that break through the surface of water, sitting with my fishing line in one hand with a bent pin on the end of it, trying to find a better tackle, or better yet, a way of diving in. That's the scary thing. The image I get is that I want to be one of the fish myself. Therapist, you want to be down there flowing along too. Though this client is not yet fully experiencing in a process manner and hence does not fully exemplify the sixth point of the continuum, he foresees it so clearly that his description gives a real sense of its meaning. Another characteristic of this stage of process is the physiological loosening which accompanies it. Moistness in the eyes, tears, sighs, muscular relaxation are frequently evident. Often, there are other physiological concomitants. I would hypothesize that in these moments, had we the measure for it, we would discover improved circulation, improved conductivity of nervous impulses. An example of the primitive nature of some of these sensations may be indicated in the following excerpt. Example, the client, a young man, has expressed the wish his parents would die or disappear. It's kind of like wanting to wish them away and wishing they had never been. And I'm so ashamed of myself because then they call me and off I go, swish. They're somehow still so strong. I don't know. There's some umbilical. I can almost feel it inside me. Swish. And he gestures, plucking himself away by grasping at his navel. Therapist, they really do have a hold on your umbilical cord. Client, it's funny how real it feels. It's like a burning sensation, kind of. And when they say something which makes me anxious, I can feel it right there, pointing. I never thought of it quite that way. Therapist, as though if there's a disturbance in the relationship between you, then you do just feel it as though it was a strain on your umbilicus. Client, yeah, kind of like in my gut here. It's so hard to define the feeling that I feel there. Here he is living subjectively in the feeling of dependence on his parents, yet it would be most inaccurate to say that he's perceiving it. He is in it, experiencing it as a strain on his umbilical cord. In this stage, internal communication is free and relatively unblocked. I believe this is quite adequately illustrated in the examples given. Indeed, the phrase internal communication is no longer quite correct, for as each of these examples illustrate, the crucial moment is a moment of integration in which communication between different internal foci is no longer necessary because they become one. The incongruence between experience and awareness is vividly experienced as it disappears into congruence. The relevant personal construct is dissolved in this experiencing moment, and the client feels cut loose from his previously stabilized framework. I trust these two characteristics may acquire more meaning from the following example. A young man has been having difficulty getting close to a certain unknown feeling. That's almost exactly what the feeling is, too. It was that I was living so much of my life and seeing so much of my life in terms of being scared of something. He tells how his professional activities are just to give him a little safety and a little world where I'll be secure, and for the same reason, pause, I was kind of letting seep through, but I also tied it in with you and with my relationship with you. And one thing I feel about it is fear of its going away. His tone changes to role play more accurately his feeling. Won't you let me have this? I kind of need it. I can be so lonely and scared without it. Therapist, Let me hang on to it because I'd be terribly scared if I didn't. It's a kind of pleading thing too, isn't it? Client, I get a sense of, it's this kind of pleading little boy. It's this gesture of begging. And he puts his hand up as if in prayer. Therapist, you put your hands in kind of a supplication. Client, yeah, that's right. Won't you do this for me? Kind of. Oh, that's terrible. Who, me? Beg? That's an emotion I've never felt clearly at all. Something I've got such a confusing feeling. One is it's such a wondrous feeling to have these new things come out of me. It amazes me so much each time. And there's the same feeling, being scared that I've so much of this, tears. I just don't know myself. Here's suddenly something I never realized, had any inkling of, that it was something or way I wanted to be. Here we see a complete experiencing of his pleadingness and a vivid recognition of the discrepancy between this experiencing and his concept of himself. Yet this experiencing of discrepancy exists in the moment of its disappearance. From now on, he is a person who feels pleading, as well as many other feelings. At this moment dissolves the way he has construed himself. He feels cut loose from his previous world, a sensation which is both wondrous and frightening. The moment of full experiencing becomes a clear and definite referent. The examples given should indicate that the client is often not too clearly aware of what has hit him in these moments. Yet, this does not seem too important because the event is an entity, a referent, which can be returned to again and again if necessary to discover more about it. The pleadingness, the feeling of loving myself, which are present in these examples, may not prove to be exactly as described. They are, however, solid points of reference to which the client can return until he has satisfied himself as to what they are. It is perhaps that they constitute a clear-cut physiological event, a subterraneum of conscious life, which the client can return to for investigatory purposes. Gedlin has called my attention to the significant quality experiencing as a referent. His endeavoring to build an extension of psychological theory on this basis. Differentiation of experiencing is sharp and basic. Because each of these moments is a referent, a specific entity, it does not become confused with anything else. The process of sharp differentiation builds on it and about it. In this stage, there are no longer problems, external or internal. The client is living subjectively a phase of his problem. It is not an object. I trust it is evident that in any of these examples, it would be grossly inaccurate to say that the client perceives his problem as internal or is dealing with it as an internal problem. We need some way of indicating that he is further than this, and of course, enormously far in the process sense from perceiving his problem as external. The best description seems to be that he neither perceives his problem nor deals with it. He is simply living some portion of it knowingly and acceptingly. I have dwelt so long on this sixth definable point on the process continuum because I see it as a highly crucial one. My observation is that these moments of immediate, full, accepted experiencing are in some sense almost irreversible. To put this in terms of the examples, it is my observation and hypothesis that with these clients, wherever the future experiencing of the same quality and characteristics occurs, it will necessarily be recognized in awareness for what it is, a tender caring for self, an umbilical bond, which makes him a part of his parents or a pleading small boy dependence, as the case may be. And it might be remarked in passing, once an experience is fully in awareness, fully accepted, then it can be coped with effectively like any other clear reality. An end of reading for today. We have stopped at 151. The seventh stage is where we will continue on next time. Thank you all again for joining and for requesting that we continue this. And I look forward to seeing you next time, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and happy reading.